Tell us a little bit about European gas demand, given that, of course, prices have surged and now we're headed towards winter.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Northwest Europe, we have seen industrial demand for natural gas down year to date about 17% year on year, which is already an impressive number. But just given how high prices are right now, we would have expected July demand numbers to look a little bit lower. We're not seeing that yet. And it might be because of this uncertainty around the supply from Nord Stream 1. I think a lot of market participants are waiting to see where that comes out to then make their decisions going forward.
How much uncertainty is there about Nord Stream capacity? Because President Putin seems to put it with the conditionality of those sanctioned parts also returning to the country.
Yeah, these conditions keep popping up, right? And I think ultimately what they suggest is that this is more than just about a turbine. This is likely a political and economic decision as much as a technical one. So ultimately, when the turbine gets returned to Russia, that will not dictate flows of gas. I think what we've seen, including, for example, the decision not to reroute the reduced flows via the Ukraine, which was an option for Russia, and they opted not to do that. So it really opens room for interpretation that this is a bit of a political decision.
What is the situation when it comes to flexibility of production for Russia, given that we know with the connectivity and the situation for alternative buyers that we're not likely to see those flows directed somewhere else?
The producing region that currently services Europe is not connected to alternative buyers. So Russia has been pretty much splitting those volumes between domestic storage injections and shutting in production. Gazprom's own data has pointed out that year to date, their production is already down 10% year on year. And the July data point, the first half of July, is down more than 35% year on year.
Do we expect to see imports remaining high when it comes to LNG going into Europe?
That is such an important point. So far, we've seen demand for LNG from China extremely weak, right? They've been recovery from COVID-related lockdowns earlier in the year. When you look at total China domestic demand for natural gas, it went from being down year on year in April and May to being just about flat year on year in June. So this has allowed China to keep their domestic storage extremely well supplied. And as a result, they've been reselling their LNG cargoes out in the spot market. So the more they resell, the more LNG is available to Europe, which brings up an important risk. The moment Chinese economic activity picks up, we may see this quickly change, and as a result, fewer cargoes available for Europe.
Does Europe have any other substitution fuels at this point? We have seen some talk about coal, some returning some of those power plants.
Right, so natural gas has been the most expensive fuel for power generation since last fall, which means that everybody that could switch away from gas into coal, into oil, they've already done that based on existing infrastructure. So after Nord Stream 1 flow was cut, Germany came out and said, well, we're going to bring more coal-fired capacity to the market. So by bringing additional capacity, then yes, you can switch a little bit more because those plants were not operational before. We're hoping to see them operational between now and the fall.
Sam, this confluence of impactful events, and as Mike previously referred to it as kind of a perfect storm, what does it tell us about the energy transition and your outlook for how challenging that might be?
The energy transition is not going to stop, but it's going to have to be more tolerant of hydrocarbons for a little bit longer when we don't have enough natural gas. There is no other way but to bring in coal, bring in oil, bring in other fuels that you can substitute against. The growth that we've seen so far in terms of renewable generation is just not large enough to fill in this big hole in natural gas supply.